Rural Minnesota is already feeling squeezed in many ways. Loss of a younger generation, fewer businesses, and recently low crop prices. And globally, 6 or 7 agri-food businesses have provided the majority of the seeds and chemicals. Over the summer, due to proposed mergers, that number would be just 3, sparking many governments, including the U.S., and many agricultural states, including Minnesota, to express concern. I recently asked Governor Dayton about his letter to the U.S. Attorney General and Secretary Vilsack about the mergers, and this is what he said.
Minnesotans and the farm communities have always been distrustful of those large mergers because they find that the prices are kept down, that they receive their commodities, and prices consumers go up. So I don't know if every farm group, but I'm fairly certain the Farmers Union, I believe the soybean growers, and others as well have taken the same position. So I believe I'm supporting the best interest of Minnesota.
Joining me now in the studio is the DFL lead on agricultural policy in the House, Representative David Bly. Welcome.
Glad to be here.
So you wrote a letter to Governor Dayton expressing concern. Governor Dayton then wrote a letter to the U.S. Attorney General and Secretary of Agriculture Vilsack expressing concern about this tsunami of mergers. What is troubling about this?
Well, this is something that's been going on for a number of years, and what we're looking at is choices and the ability for farmers to make choices about their future, about what the kind of farming they want to do, and to be able to make a living. And among the effects have been really a disappearance of the family farm. We have fewer and fewer farmers on the land. Farmers are being forced into a certain kind of agriculture, and we're seeing the impact of that on our natural resources like our water and our soil. These companies don't necessarily care about all of that. I mean, they may say they do, but primarily they're motivated by profits. And if they can make the profits by owning the knowledge, the ability to create genetic material, the ability to create machinery that will fit into the system that they want to create, those are problems for farmers.
Well, I want to come back to a little bit of the intellectual property aspect of this in a moment. Before we go there, though, U.S. Senator Chuck Grassley has called some hearings. He has expressed concern also on these issues, and he is a Republican. Is this a bipartisan issue?
I think it is. I think it is a bipartisan issue. It's interesting to me, too, that of the 2 farm groups, the National Farmers Union and Farm Bureau, both have expressed great concern because they recognize that the diminishing choices that a farmer has and the control that corporations have over this intellectual material or whatever it might be reduces the chance that farmers can make a choice to do one kind of farming or another. And farmers have seen this happen to them over the years, and I think it raises their concern even more when they see that the possibility or the ability to make choices about the kind of farming you want to do is greatly reduced. I've heard from both farm organizations that they're very concerned about it.
Beyond the cost to the farmers, because this is a cost factor for farmers, I've also read that there's concerns for food security. I think globally, there's a loss of crop diversity. There's less choice in the marketplace. Do you share these concerns?
Oh, very much so, yes. And crop diversity, for instance, most farming in Minnesota right now is 2 crops. Corn and soybeans.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with those crops, and I don't mean to criticize the use of them, but they create green ground cover for about 2 months of the year, which means the soil is brown or bare for a good portion of the year. That leaves it open to erosion, to wind and water erosion, and if you're putting chemicals onto that soil, and it washes away, it gets into our streams, it causes havoc with habitat and with downstream, as we see in Louisiana, the hypoxia, the changing oxygen levels in the water down there.
Right, and increased algae and other factors. There was an article in the Guardian magazine that comes from the UK that said that these mergers are really about controlling big data. So the intellectual property, the gene traits of these seeds that are engineered to be resistant to products such as Roundup. these are not really concepts people think about when they think about farming, are they?
Well, the more control that the corporations have over it, the less they'll be able to think about it. And one of the problems with things like Roundup is that it's engineered to take care of certain kinds of weeds. Well, weeds have a kind of what you could call a natural intelligence that work around these pesticides, and we're going to see super weeds. We're going to see them growing and causing problems for farmers. And this is true of the whole experimentation with genetic modification. Generally trying to solve a certain problem with chemistry or with engineering, and you may solve that problem for the short term, but nature has a way of responding. And I think that's a problem that they hadn't foreseen. And it also creates more problems for farmers. How do they deal with that? They're the ones on the ground that have to deal with the weeds or the super weeds. And of course, the corporation will say, we'll come up with another idea. We'll come up with another solution to that one problem, and we'll move forward and be able to take care of things. But I think what's happening is you're creating, in a sense, an artificial system that creates more profits. We see this in the pharmaceutical industry, for instance, where you have a drug, it causes you problems. Well, they have a drug for that.
Sure.
And the same thing can happen here, where those who own the system continue to make profits off them, and the farmers have fewer and fewer choices to make ends meet. And I don't want to see farming as a way of life go away. We've seen the impact that it has on small towns in rural America, and I think that's really a dangerous path to be going down.
So what can be done at the state level? What would you like to see happen?
Well, unfortunately, I'm not sure what we can do at the state level, except try to point it out to our federal folks that something needs to be done at the federal level. I'm less confident that something will be done with the change that we may be seeing at the federal level.
You're talking about the administrative change from the recent election?
Yeah, that's right. I really don't know what it means. And even though it may be a bipartisan issue, I've not heard President Trump-elect make any comments about it. I'm not sure he understands the implications of it. It worries me. And I'm not sure if he's going to be listening to people who also would have concerns about this. I hate to see the direction that we seem to be headed in, where the landscape is going to be changing even more, in my mind, for the worse.
On that note, we're going to stop there, but Representative Bly, thank you for coming in today.
Yeah, you're welcome.